Hey, how is everybody?
Yeah.
Here we are again, another fabulous day of Let's Talk About It Wednesday, where we are here at CCX Create. Well, we greatly appreciate them allowing us to kind of come in here each and every week to bring you news that you can use. And sitting here with my boy, Mr. Joseph Banks, to my right, and to my left, we have the infamous yet famous James Everett. What's going on with you, mister?
Man, I'm good, man.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting on the rich part. I got the fame part.
Okay, that's what's up.
I appreciate the intro, though.
We definitely gonna get that in just a second. Then don't worry about it. Hey, those Timberwolves, man. Timberwolves are doing pretty. See, there you go.
Yeah, they are.
Don't do it.
There you
We
go.
don't start off bad, though. I'm gang,
But,
all the way, lose or win.
So 36 and 23. They sitting in fifth seed right now. You know what I'm saying? They doing all right. They got about 22 games left. I'm hoping that they can kind of make it to that 45 game win, for the season. We'll see. That's quite a few games. That's 9 games left, but it's a tight race, if you will. But other than that, man, the Wolves is doing pretty darn good. Yeah. I know my guy every time I get to talking about some Timberwolves or the Vikings, boy.
Well, Jaden McDaniels, if he's hooping, we win.
Right. I do want to give a big up to the U.S. Winter Games. United States came away with 33 medals.
Wow.
12 gold, 12 silver, and 9 bronze.
Okay.
They came in second behind some other country that had like 41 total. I don't know what their breakdown was, but I got an opportunity to kind of peek at some of those Winter Games, and pretty interesting, man. Pretty interesting.
It makes me feel cold.
Exactly. Brother Joe, what's going on with you, man?
Oh, I can't call it. Just doing some technical stuff there.
You get it done over there, brother?
Yep.
All right. So, everything kind of going good with the campaign and stuff right now, man?
Yes, we just finished our second Cup of Joe with Joe today, and over in North Minneapolis. That went pretty decent. Again, we're going to be over at where we next week?
The next one is March 5th over at Cup of Java. That's at 400 Penn Avenue South, right off of 394 there.
Bryn Mawr.
Yeah, Bryn Mawr area, absolutely. So for those that are looking to, again, get involved, maybe not necessarily in the campaign, but just getting involved in your community, being able to kind of come down and ask those important questions that is important to you of the changes that you want to see happening in your community. You have to get involved. Now is the time. And remember, we've said this plenty of times before, not voting is voting. Right? Mm-hmm. So you can't sit back and kind of complain and point fingers if you're not doing your part, right? Please make sure that you're checking on family and friends. We've just had way too many tragedies here in recent past. I'm not going to, get too far into that, but, check on your friends and family and your loved ones and, see how you just might be able to help. And if you have that extra dollar, sometimes it just may help, those strangers on the street. And
send it to me.
We know that they may not necessarily do with that dollar as we may like them to. But, when you give it up, you have to give it up to them, right?
No.
Well,
I hear you. You a good dude.
Hey, let me tell you something. When we realize, brother, that life is a lot bigger than just us. It's a lot bigger than just me. That's why we connect. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because we do so much good work together.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now, I'm sure you can be successful by yourself.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? But then you wouldn't be able to share and pass on some of that knowledge, and that inspiration, and things of that nature to me.
Real
you feel
talk.
what I'm saying? So it's I'm not saying that you got to go out there and support them. Right, I'm not saying you got to bring them home and let them take a bath.
I feel you.
You know what I'm saying? But
Let him take that bear.
Don't take that.
Don't deny
I
him
just
the
like to
laugh,
make
man,
sure
you know.
I just like to make sure the resources getting to the people who deserve them.
Well, absolutely.
That's all. That's my only thing. I do believe there's a difference between homeless and a drug addict.
Well, absolutely. But, we also have to acknowledge that these homeless individuals, they have various forms of mental health, other various forms of addiction,
Yes.
things of that nature that's having an input and an impact on their outcome,
No question.
right? So,
No question.
with that being said,
If you can't make it in Minnesota, you can't make it nowhere, though.
man, look.
You know how hard it is for me to be quiet, man. I'm trying to.
Hey, man, what you been doing lately, man? What's going on?
Man, there's so much going on, man.
Okay.
Really dealing with family stuff right now as far as assets, land,
Okay.
who's going to be in charge of stuff as it gets passed on. Just real, maintenance stuff inside the family. Got a couple projects coming out. We're transferring the power of Sub-Zero Collective in May.
Right. So tell us a little bit more, because I was going to ask about Sub-Zero. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Sub-Zero Collective is a co-op of individual talents and expertise whose objective is to be a working model for economic growth, community enhancement, and political progression. So we use hip-hop to move politics and product over time. So a lot of people that you know over time that are DJs, political officials. Like Camp Wellstone was based off our inner city work.
Okay.
So we go back that far with just the Wellstone Camp strategies. Emerge communities came out of, it was New Utens before, but the whole model came out of Sub-Zero Collective. So we've been the wind beneath the wings of a lot of projects.
Okay.
And I was the representative and the CEO at the time, and now we're in the process of transferring that influence, get out to vote efforts and all that. Because somebody has to be the vanguard, or somebody has to be there that's not tied to the Divine Nine, that's not tied to the NAACP, the Urban League, but able to work with all of them. So
Absolutely.
we're the other organization. So we got a lot of young people coming in, worked with Pearl Warren's campaign, helped her get the election through that. So we've got our foot to the ground, our ear to the. We updated the van for the DFL over time, and we worked with Republicans. We worked with all the parties. I got some communists out of Wisconsin that want to come here and do fundraising. I said, well, y'all can hold up signs as white folks and say, yo, donate to the thing. I said, I don't know, really, communism's not really, my point is we're the business, we're between the businesses and the community, and so we're kind of a conduit.
And you know what, man? I have to apologize because I got so excited because I'm sitting next to such greatness that I forgot that we forgot to hit the people with the famous backpack and all that other good. Man, wait a minute. No, it ain't you. That was me.
Oh, no, that's no problem. Everybody knows that we start, middle, and end every show with the backpack. And that backpack consists of making sure you got your driver's license and insurance before you get in the vehicle. Remember to place them above the visor. That way, if stopped by law enforcement, it won't be mistaken for a weapon. Remember to stay calm. Keep your hands where they can be seen. Allow the officer to go through his spiel. And as always, make it home to your loved ones. Same thing when walking down the street. Make sure you got your driver's license or ID where it's easily accessible. Remember to stay calm. Keep your hands where they be seen. And as always, make it home to your loved ones. With the new ICE surge, of course, as always, make sure that you have some kind of identification to prove who you are safely and calmly so that you can go home and work things out with the family.
Absolutely. And we will be talking about the surge of ICE and the aftermath. But I also just want to piggyback on that a little bit. Doing some of the things that, I do out in the community, there's been a surge, in young people, getting firearms, getting permits to carry, right? And so a lot of individuals are trying to do the right thing, trying to kind of come to the range and, shoot and things of that nature. But sometimes they're just not old enough to be able to rent, or even own, a weapon
firearm,
and things of that nature. So this is where, parents and older relatives and things of that nature may come into play, to bring your younger siblings, to the range or have them taking various classes that are offered at various different ranges. So then therefore they can be, that positive, productive, and knowledgeable firearms owner, when they do hit that age of being able to carry and purchase and things of that nature. But Brother Everett, I know that, you have kind of been in politics, for a while now.
Yes, sir.
I remember, many years ago, when you had ran for office
Yes,
in
sir.
Minneapolis, and since then you have been pushing voting, the importance of voting, for
Definitely.
quite some time,
Yes, sir.
right? So can you kind of elaborate a little bit to the listening and viewing audience, on how important voting is?
Yeah. First of all, you always give the best intros, man, of people. So I appreciate that. It's been an honor, like I was just talking before the show with people offset, to be on panels with you. I definitely have looked up to you and how you've been able to manage being law enforcement and just being a real man, a real brother too. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
want to say
appreciate
that. I want to document that. So I think one of the reasons that what people don't realize is that voting may not affect you nationally. You might not have as much of effect nationally because it's still based on the electoral colleges, but locally,
Right.
I'm watching people lose elections by 70 votes,
Right.
41 votes. I've watched it happen just because people didn't stay focused. And people think that people tell me, I don't get in politics because it's ugly. Man, I see more drama going down at people's places of worship. I watch people watch baddies or even WWF. They say they don't like drama, but they do. They just don't like
Right.
it when it counts for something. You know what I'm saying? They love drama. It's
Right,
just
right,
that's
right.
not, they don't want to do real drama. So I tell people, join your neighborhood board. Learn what's going on. Understand how systems work if you want to have an effect. We hold some records for the highest voter turnout in the non-presidential year since 1957 as our Sub-Zero Collective. We hold some very serious records over time. So we've been known to actually be able to bring out the vote because we engage the kids. We would do overnight, a lock-in at the YMCA on Broadway, where we'd make all the politicians come at 12 midnight and come speak to the kids and all that kind of stuff. And then the kids would take literature home to their parents. We would go to bus stops. We would go to we started the model of going to the fast food places and registering people while they were in line at White Castle.
Right.
And it became a national model. So it's like, it's important that people see you caring. Sometimes it's not about them caring. Sometimes it's about them seeing that you're involved. And to know the importance, like you take somebody like Wintana, what they call her, Olivia Woke. She was doing Get Out to Vote with us with Impact over North when we were doing Impact Minnesota. Now she's like one of the leaders of the socialist agenda, and the movement behind the scenes. And she was not even from this country. She came here, learned the process, and worked the process. And that, as same with Ilhan and other folks that have done that, or where it all started with Nimco. She was the first one involved. Nimco Ahmed. I forget her marriage name, but she was here 30 years ago. Farheen Hakim. People who really stepped in long before, learning the process. And also, you don't have to win to win.
Right.
When I ran, I first of all, I never lost a debate. Timmy used to get whooped. I've never lost a debate. The issue is that do people want to make that radical of a change?
Right.
Do they want you to be that person? It's not about, so what would happen is people would adapt my platform so they could knock me out. I don't want to do it. I just want it done. If you run a strong enough platform and that people pick up your platform, then you've created what you needed to happen.
Absolutely.
So, just because God gives you the vision to build a ship don't make you the captain, And so politics is not win or lose. It's about agendas. There's no permanent friend, like Bill English always say, there's no permanent enemies, no permanent friends, only permanent issues.
Right.
So once you get out of that piece and understand that, is it about you doing it? Is it about you getting credit for it? Or is it about it getting done?
Right, absolutely. Right. So when we kind of talk about change, Brother Joe, and you are seeking election for Hennepin County Sheriff.
Right.
You can say that we've been there, done that as far as, running prior. What is the difference now? What is the change that you're going to bring to Hennepin County?
Well, the change is pretty much what I've been saying all along. A lot of these things that have happened in our county, I was already saying it was going to happen. We just haven't been prepared, okay? We haven't been prepared as a county, understaffed, underfinanced, all that good stuff. Unfortunately, Sheriff Witt got caught in that. She got caught in that concept of I'm going to get along, and kind of enforce their policies that they have in place. And that doesn't make her a bad sheriff, but it makes her an administrator. She's an administrator. She's a good administrator. But the problem of it is when we're dealing with problems that require logistics, on the ground logistics, she just hasn't lived up to that point. She hasn't called people out on it. In times, she's got herself caught in the middle of, improper management inside the jail that's cost us lots of money. So the change is accountability. I'm going to have to kind of almost re-gut the system to get what I need to make it fit and make it work for the community. But that's what I'm going to do.
That's scary talk, though.
It is because
that's that radical change you're talking about.
Yeah,
It
is because so many people have benefited from it being the way it is, that they almost believe that the way it is okay, right? And so change is just that. I'm gonna scare some people. I'm gonna shake some things up. There's not gonna be any more business as usual. When we're spending $3.4 million on a wrongful death suit, the real question is, why didn't we fix it before it got to that point, right? That's what I'm concerned about. When we have a guy who dies inside the jail, and I'm looking at the sheriff's statement that they put out saying, I really want to thank my staff for responding to an medical emergency, and I see a guy on the ground dying in front of the staff, that concerns me. And then we didn't come back and hold anyone accountable outside of the lawsuit. And thankfully, this guy's family had enough money to actually keep it in the forefront of the news. That, too, would have been swept away. So there's a lot of things that we're going to be attacking.
Absolutely. Well, we have seen, the surge of ICE, right?
I loved it.
And then, there has been a change, right? As far as how they have shifted and kind of conducting, their process now.
Yeah, rest in peace to Renee Good and Alex Preddy as well. Let me go forward and say that too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I loved it.
What did you think about, and how did you feel about the surge of ICE?
I was waiting for this question, man, because I'm going to come back and ask him too. How did he feel that the sheriff handled it? You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I can't wait, but we'll come back to that. First of all, I think it was great. We wrote a song, St. Paul Slim. Shout out to St. Paul Slim. We wrote a song 15 years ago called Ice Phoenix, and the concept was that there's a phoenix that comes out of the fire. It makes more sense that one that will be one that unthawed in the land of 33 degrees. And we said the revolution comes out of Minnesota. Ask Prince, ask Keith Ellison. This is when they were both. That's when Prince was alive and before this whole lawsuit, 15 years ago. So we wrote a song about coming from the land of that's covered in snow and that we walk on water because we're on water and all this. So we were already on this, man, and so I knew that it would happen here, and I knew. Because the stronghold, first of all, the surge had everything to do with politics as well.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Because the surge also was about this being the DFL. This is the only state that has a DFL. So the DFL, they crushed the D in every other state. Mm-hmm. All the Ds are crushed. They're kissing butt. Mm-hmm. The only people that's not kissing butt is Keith Ellison, Ilhan, Amy, Tim, all the Minnesota, because they're not D. They're FL. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so this was about him coming up here trying to crush the D ultimately and coming after Tim. People think because Minnesotans is nice that we don't be about it. but if we are in the cold though,
right,
we know how to deal, and we got full bellies. See, that's the difference. Mm-hmm. You will eat here, okay? So we ready to protest, and then the benevolent folks start bringing more food. So I think the surge was great. I think it trained local law enforcement. We had new batches of law enforcement. I think it trained the sheriffs at a different level. I think it put pressure on our institutions and officers and it made them feel small to know what it felt like to feel small. Because they had to deal with racist remarks and all this. When you got 600 officers and 4,000 other ones rolled down, like fam, and they charged up off that old racist white boy juice, like pumped up though, like man, and they chief is like that, peeing on the bomb, writing your name on it, you know what I'm saying, doing stuff on the bomb, we going to war type, there. And anybody that knows anything about white folks, whenever they heat, they always haul, man. When they make that move, if they say you witches, you witches. And I watched this surge, and I think it was great. I think that they didn't understand because they did the whole shooting happened on the 7th, and everything's kind of coordinated with the insurrection piece at the Capitol because it's like they knew they couldn't shoot a black man because of George Floyd. Uncle Ben's off the rice and Aunt Jemima's off the pancakes and Land O'Lakes lady's off her knees off the butter. So they knew they couldn't do that, and they didn't want to do the African because that's too close to a black man. And they knew they couldn't do the woman because the women will step up. So they thought they might be able to get away with popping a little white lady to make an example because they've been telling them, handle your business, handle your business. You can't kill white people, though. Not here, though. That's not. And how about this? If he would not have done that the way it was, people weren't really tripping on them picking up immigrants. It was about the way you did it. Nobody was going to stand against what was going on. It was about the fact that you had to be bully and obnoxious with it in such a civilized place. And then the murder of Mr. Preddy, the way that happened, the way it laid out was so statementful. You know what I'm saying? So that right there galvanized. It was 40 below. Somebody said, man, they even pulled out HARP and changed the weather. This is somebody I know said, my homegirl Jazz said, hey, they said, she's like, I've lived here all these years, ain't had a 40 below. They pulled out the 40 below and these cats still came out. So what it did was he was making a complexity theory move. And this is what his chat GPT had told him to do. Come to Minnesota now because you can't go later. But he derailed his whole agenda and his oversight and his power by making that move on Minnesota that way, and it's crippled his organization, and he probably won't finish this term. You know what I'm saying? But he never wanted to finish a term. Last time he tried to get impeached on the insurrection so that Pence would have been a martyr, had a little rope burn on his neck, and he would have got pushed in there, and they would have declared martial law and stayed president indefinitely. So that was the play. He want to go home. So I think the surge was good. I think they underestimated the ice. And that snow, just because it looks like snow, if it's been there 3 days, it's really like a snow cone. So it's like an ice ball. So they didn't know about sharp ice and falling objects, and they thought they could make a different move. What I didn't like, I don't want to speak on the person's name because I don't want to start none because I will fight somebody. You know what I'm saying? So, but I will
we don't
say,
want you to be fighting nobody.
No, but I just want to say it that way it was out there ahead of time. Right. There was somebody who made a false alarm like, yo, y'all think this ain't got nothing to do with y'all, but there's a black man got shot over north, and try to call everybody to attention. And being that that's our hood, like where some of the oldest blood in the country is, that's why we have a research center over there. It was, you know what I'm saying, it was somebody who's trying to play the fence, you know what I'm saying? That Ebony Ivory since y'all thought it wasn't y'all, then now it's you. Hold on. That's why, shout out to the brother who had to say, this is not the South Side. This is the North Side. Right. My children is in here. Because we didn't get involved for a reason, because we are treasure trove of intellectual property and healthy black people over there that are making moves quietly. So the fact that they even got exposed that way, and and we don't know what them cameras that they picked up will switch up. Another thing, the fact that Donald Trump has come up with that anybody who's anti-capitalist is a domestic terrorist. And we have a socialist agenda here, and we have a socialist organization, and the socialist organization has been blocked from the national level, that the Democrats and Republicans agreed that socialism was not accepted, and then he put a domestic terrorism on anybody who's anti-capitalist. All these people protesting still don't know what the repercussions might be of how he deals with this, because if you're anti-capitalist, then you're a domestic terrorist. If you're a socialist, then you're domestic terrorist. So while so I'll stop there because, I'll run on, but I'm just saying, I think it was really good. I think it galvanized. It woke up all the old well-stoners. All the hippies is up. I'm surprised Bob Dylan didn't put nothing out. Bruce Springsteen's wax song got out. You know what I'm saying? I think Vance is going to be fast-tracked to and he said the reason they had to send Tom in is because Vance revealed too much of the human side, like, what's wrong with you, Minnesota? Why y'all do that to us? They're like, no, you got to go in there different. So I think it was good. I think it woke us up. And I'll say this last piece. We don't have no natural enemies. Like, Minnesota don't have everybody love Minnesota, right? Everybody got family up here. The biggest thing we got here is a black bear, and you might get away from him. He cool. We don't even have no poisonous spiders or no animals that can hurt you here. Okay? So we needed a common enemy. So this was great for us because now people are galvanized.
Well, with that being said, Brother Joe, is people always kind of want to know, you know, if you would have been in position as Hennepin County Sheriff, you know, at the time that Mr. Trump was sending ICE agents, or you got the information that ICE agents was coming, what would you have done?
Wow. The first thing I would have did was get some clarification, because initially ICE was coming here for fraud. Then it turned into immigration. Okay. You know, so we had to get clarification on that. And most importantly, I had to be in those rooms. I had to be in those rooms so I know what's going on, where you're going, and given what my expectations of what your behavior is going to be while you're here in my city. We was definitely going to work with our partners, but we were not going to allow them to just come in our city and just run rogue.
What would you have did, though, if they'd have told you couldn't come to the meeting?
Well, they was going to let me in. They was going to let me in because it's my county. It ain't no such thing as not let me in. You let me in. I got two choices. I can deal with you here in the county, or I can fly to D.C., but we're going to get it taken care of. This is my county. You don't get to come in my yard and not tell me what's going on. I don't care what you're enforcing, right? It's my yard.
They could have arrested you, though.
Those things happen, right? But the bottom line of it is you have to be willing to stand up and be held accountable. So it's important that what the sheriff should have did was said, listen, we know you guys got a job to do, but we need to know exactly what that job is and how we can help it to be successful without causing all this conflict. These agents were here without basic radios to communicate with local law enforcement. How are they calling for help on a cell phone, on a non-emergency number, and not getting any assistance? You know, why don't we know the addresses that they're going to? Why don't we know the names they're looking for? Why haven't we offered opportunity for people to turn themselves in? You had all kind of opportunity to get people to save humanity, right? What they were saying was, and openly admitted, hey, these guys are trained at the border. They have no real training in terms of inner city urban policing, right? We need you guys to be prevalent and visible so that we can do what we have to do and do it safely. That didn't happen. We drew a line in the sand and just simply said, hey, we're not working with you. And then the second part of that was be clear on what your authority is here, right? If these guys are doing some things in front of you that you know are, a violation of the law, be clear on what your authority is in terms of intervening and being able to stop this from happening. You got a county prosecutor that you could have went to for guidance. You got the attorney general, and you have the U.S. Marshals Department. So you had insight where you could have gotten assistance from as to where you stood, and then give clear directions to police departments, right? Because these police departments work under you, the sheriff. It almost looked like the Minneapolis police chief was the director of what was happening, and that got lost in translation because at some point they were talking to the chief, the mayor, and everyone else but the sheriff. And so I felt like the sheriff should have been, watching her stand there with her hands folded, kind of, like lost in space. I felt like she should have been like, whoa, wait a minute now. We having these conversations like I'm not even here.
You saying the sheriff is over the police?
Yeah. Yeah, the sheriff is in charge of the police departments. And so it's her job to police the police within the county. There should have been a clear directive as how we're going to get things done in our county. And if something goes wrong, here's our protocol, right? Mm-hmm. That wasn't there. It almost looked like every police department was doing their own thing. And now that, they're pulling guns on the Brooklyn Fire Cops, we don't know what we need to do there. And we're not sure if they can arrest them. And then you got the chief at the end screaming from Minneapolis, if my guys don't take action when they see something in front of them, then they're going to be fired. We took an oath to protect people against foreign and domestic issues, right? And so at this point, we're in a domestic situation. Can we not make a decision? And here's what I thought was really terrible. It was no decision problem when we were arresting folks for waving their fist and being too loud and throwing product, right? But there was a blur when it came to a person being killed in your community, in your county. We still haven't done a proper investigation, right? And that should have been done. A person died in your city, your county, your state. You're telling me you don't have the resources to do an investigation here and send something over to the county attorney's office? I didn't say prosecute the case. That's for the courts. I simply said do your part. Your part was to get it in the court. We didn't do that. We let this guy leave the entire state and still didn't go, hey, we need to talk to him. He shot somebody. We didn't know what it is. I don't care what you're saying in terms of federal authority, because at some point we have to determine if he was still within his right. All right? We have to determine that. Now, he might have been, but we still have to determine that.
Would you arrested him?
I sure would have. I sure would have. At the very least, he would have been legally detained, because we got to do our part. I get it, he doing his job, but we got to have a conversation. We got to have that conversation, because tomorrow somebody going to know, hey, what happened? What gun did he use? What's his mindset? What happened? All of the facts had to come out. And that's when you have worked with your federal partners and say, hey, come on down. We going to have to talk about this, because he's sitting over here. You might have to pick him up from Hennepin, right?
They might have socked you out, man.
Hey, there's statutes in place to protect me under that, okay?
Gotcha.
The fact of the matter is, he's within his legal right as long as he's following the guidelines of his job. Let us not forget that removing somebody is a civil action, not criminal, all right? And when we get to the point where we're actually shooting people, now we're in my realm where it's criminal, and I have to investigate that portion of that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Right,
Okay.
absolutely. Well, you was kind of a little unaware that Hennepin County Sheriff kind of oversees their local law enforcement agencies that fall within their county.
I kind of learned that before, but I want that part pointed out.
Right.
And because I never see a sheriff speak on that like
Okay.
that, like with the authority I've seen you speak with. I've heard the Moors, and I've heard, the nation, all the people, of the sciences and stuff speak about that power and the sheriff being the sheriff. And so I understand all of that.
Right.
But I never hear anybody try to stand on that position of accountability for the police department.
yeah, it's gotten watered down over the years, and I think a lot of sheriffs feel like, man, I don't want to jump in there in those cities and kind of intervene on them. But the reality of it is, the sheriff is responsible for safety of the entire county, and the police get the authority from the sheriff department. And so even if we didn't have the police department, the sheriff is still responsible for keeping people safe. And so it's your job to police the police. If you're not going down there making sure the checks and balances are working properly for the people, then who is? Right?
Absolutely. Well, we've seen this little bit of shift, right? And so now you're starting to see businesses, come out and say, hey, we've lost millions of dollars, because of this surge. We want the city or need the city or the county, to give us X amount of dollars, to help us be able to sustain, our laws, so then therefore we can kind of stay in business. Now we know, that over, the past 10 years or so, that Hennepin County, the city of Minneapolis, has been shelling out money, like a cup of water.
Yeah.
Tax money. Tax money. Let's not forget, that's not their money. Those are taxpayer dollars that they're just kind of handing away.
Absolutely. And that's kind of where I was kind of going with that. So how much more money do we think of our taxpayer dollars that we can kind of give away?
Well, let's go here first. Being that African Americans were here 100 and something years ago, fur trading up and down the rivers, and now we know that we were here before that too. We've been here, okay?
Right.
And now that we know that, how could we be in the poverty ratio? Like, if you think about how much money got given to other people and how small our community is, a fraction of the money that was given out to other people would have taken care of our whole community. So there's an investment by other people to keep us in this position. There's an investment in still not African Americans maintaining wealth.
Right,
you can own the barbershop, not the building. And so now that the immigrant issue, now here's the other side. I got a lot of immigrant friends. I got a lot of folks that's from everywhere, but at the same time, they look out for themselves. And this opportunity, you would have thought, when people say, I shut down my business, you didn't have to shut down your business. You had to shut down your business because it was all Asians working there.
Right.
There was a whole bunch of African Americans across the street that could have came in and worked. So you shouldn't have got that choice to do that. Either we're in this together, or these are all people that came in on top of us as African Americans.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And so in this process of everybody getting healed and everything, African Americans need to be the priority again. One, we can't be deported. Start there. Target would still be cool. I mean, not from that. I'm just using that as an example. No shout out to Target, but just saying that people couldn't come to work because it was immigrant based. People have fought to replace our presence. Even the last election, Omar Fattah, love him to death. You know what I'm saying? Love him as a Muslim. Met him, we're cool. But the fact that he didn't check in with any of the Muslims that were in the race that was running in different areas, and the fact that the Democratic Socialist Movement didn't have a black agenda, we were being replaced. There was enough Somali votes and other immigrant votes to push a whole agenda that we had not been talked about. We were being used in it. Some of us had positions in it, but there was never a talk about agenda with us. So the thing is that at the end of the day, as people are fighting for all this stuff, the African American is still being left behind. Even when Tim Walsh was running for vice president, there was no signs in the hood. There was no money given to the North Side offices for get out to vote. There was no money. You didn't see any lawn signs that said Walsh. Why? Because Bobby Joe Champion would have been governor or lieutenant governor, and Peggy Flanagan would have been the governor. A Native woman and a black man, that overrode anything nationally that was going on. So we have to really look at how this all is based on and standing on and sitting on the backs of African Americans, because where's Randy Stanton when you need him? You know what I'm saying? Our elders would have never went for this. You know, and that's what my challenge is with Sub-Zero Collective in our transfer, is that I'm going on a trip with them, some of the DSA and some other different folks and all that, from Minneapolis to Selma. So there's a whole bunch of folks that protested up here, not just them, a whole bunch of folks that are going down there for the anniversary of Selma. And we're going to have a discussion, because I haven't came out and spoke against it, but I watched people try to replace us. I seen the unions switch over and all sit on behind a whole nother agenda than the DFL. I watched them switch all the way over. So let's see if they get out to vote money this time.
Well, I think it's a mindset is what it is. I mean, when we don't educate people to really understand the process, all they hear is rhetoric, right?
Yeah.
It's like teaching someone in the community how a bill becomes a law and understanding the process, where we out there shaking the fist, which is what we did during the Civil Rights Movement. We got the attention, but the difference then and now is that when they got the attention, they had a fix, right? They had a fix in place. And we're getting the attention, but we don't have a fix or a plan of fix. You know what I'm saying? And that's what's biting us in the butt, because now you got the attention. Where's the laws behind it? Where's the changes that are going to occur now that you got the attention? And I said this after the George Floyd homicide. I said, listen, guys, we're in a situation where now is the opportunity to change the way law enforcement is done and enforced, right? Nobody heard me there. And I said, in a couple of years, we're going to be right back where we started,
yes,
right? Now, when they were afraid, it was let's sling money at it, let's sling money at it, let's sling money at it. It was perfect, because guess what? If you misuse the money, I can come back and go, ha, look what you did. I did give you the money, and you didn't do nothing with it, right? Now, when they started screaming accountability, who hands out $7.5 million without deliverables, right?
Yeah.
It was intended that way.
It was.
You see what I'm saying?
Right,
now,
right.
well, you would have shocked them if you'd have come back and said, oh, yeah, we got statutory requirements, we got statistics, we got all this data to say, here's where it was, and here's how we move the needle. So you have to understand the concept and the mindset behind what it is. And even when we're going down here to the Capitol, we're not even asking properly. We're asking for $50,000, and you need $1 million to start a business, right? And so it's just, we're screaming people of color, but not black folks. We're not asking for black Pacific dollars. So it's understanding what the mindset of what it is you're trying to do is what's causing us the problem.
You know what? Off of what you just said, I was on Al Flowers I called in on his show, and he was talking about black folks need to stick together. And I remember when the Council of Black Minnesotans was the Council of Black Minnesotans before it was the Council of African Descent, right? And that had that used to answer directly to the governor, and that was the reason why it could never be dissolved. Well, when the Republicans were in power, they put pressure and said, "Yo, if y'all," because Ed McDonald was executive director, he's like, "Yo, this law says that y'all were supposed to give us 2% of everything that ever came on this, so you owe us $140 million." And it was law. It was written. So then the Republicans put pressure on the Democrats like, yo, if you make us enforce that, we'll cut that whole council out in the next thing. We'll get rid of the Council of Black Minnesotans.
Mm-hmm.
So you better not support that. Raymond Dean was the only one, the white man from over north, was the one that voted to support it. Everybody else cowered. Everybody else that was in those positions, that's why they moved up. They let that go. So, and then it got changed to the African descent, and then it got put under the Congress. So it can always be dissolved. So it got taken from where, what's his name? What's the guy? Anyway, the guy, one of the historic brothers who helped found it. It got taken from where they pushed it to, Nellie Stone Johnson and all them, to being under Congress. And so I said, Al, you remember that? I don't remember. You was there. You don't remember this, Al? And so he tried to play like I don't recall. Somebody called in and was like, Al, you remember? It was somebody who had the facts, like this. These people voted for. So at some point, this is the perfect time for African Americans to decide what our agenda is.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's no other time. And any organization that doesn't have the wherewithal to stand there with that, we'll be taken as a joke, because we've got people shut down their organizations as opposed to gave you a job.
Absolutely. Well, I will say this here real quick. We've been trying to reach out to Mr. Flowers, kind of get on the show. So if anybody knows Mr. Flowers, we're requesting to kind of come on to your show.
I can get you on
Sunday. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, well,
that's the little homie.
Yeah, we definitely want to attend his show and be able to talk a little bit more about our plan.
Well, you think he rolled with Sheriff DeWitt? You think he got her back all the way or something like that?
Well, we don't know, and we don't necessarily care about that, because we don't feel or believe that we're running against Ms. DeWitt. We're running for the people.
Okay.
But we still would like to kind of
Shouts out to Al too.
Oh, absolutely. But we just want to kind of come on to the show.
Yeah, I'll definitely have a discussion with him.
But I definitely want to hear a little bit more about this trip that you're talking about.
We're supposed to be going, I think, on the 5th of March.
March?
And I'm trying not to, because I got invited along, and I don't know how. How deep or what,
Right.
I got invited because of my senior relationship with someone there and a few of my people. But we have some different views and a lot of people that might be going on the trip. So it's going to end up historical, because we're going to establish some order. You know what I'm saying? And we're going to establish the lines between who is what. And like we were talking about before, when we were talking about the people who, with the RICO stuff, people don't know where the lines are.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess I just didn't hear about it. It sounded like it would be an awesome trip to be able to attend.
Yeah.
I wish I would have had the opportunity to perhaps throw my name in that.
I might be able to.
Who knows?
I
finagle something.
I can get you something. I might be able to get you in there.
Yeah, well,
got a few connections.
Well, yeah, I know that
and there's a bus they're taking down there, and everything, all the expenses is covered, and all that stuff. So
right. That's what's up.
We might need you.
Yeah, I did want to touch bases on that little arrest that they made, though. I mean, because of the fact that I'm frustrated over the fact that we know drugs are in the community. That's a give me, and we do know that certain gangs are operating in certain areas. However, it just seems to me that we're screaming victory every time we've arrested a lot of people of color, and as if the drugs are only existing in our community. And so for the record, let me say this. We haven't arrested a drug dealer in the United States in a long time. We have a lot of street hustlers in custody, but we don't have major drug dealers in custody. Mm-hmm. And as a result of that, people know for a fact that if you arrest a street hustler, most of the time just arresting him has shut down his enterprise. The money's not in place for proper defenses and things of that nature. And when we have a major drug trafficker, it goes beyond just the street level, and there's politicians and legislators that are involved and intertwined in that. And so, I kudos to them for making the arrest, but I'm going to say this. You should be arresting people as soon as you think is somebody going to die, not after you've seen 4 or 5 people die. Let's step in before that, okay? Please don't wait for me to get shot, okay?
Please.
All right? And so that's what my concern is. In our community, I think we should be celebrating when we've prevented something like this to happen. And then show me the capabilities for these individuals to actually facilitate the manufacturing of these narcotics that they're being caught in possession of. Because when you have done that, then I know you've actually made an impact. But as long as you're grabbing a guy with 3 or 4 keys and 200 pills and 1,000 pills, man, you're wasting the court's time. And that's just the way it is.
And I want to reflect on that because it's like we were talking about the RICO before that. And the thing about it is what I went and met when the FBI and all them, I think I talked about this last time, when the FBI and the CIA and all them came over to meet at New Salem and they were having, I said, would you guys consider in exchange for dropping the RICO, consider a ceasefire between the highs and lows? And if they agreed to a ceasefire or a truce, would y'all consider dropping the RICO? And that was really a trick question because what I was asking them, and they said, well, we would definitely consider it, but we have to drop the second set of RICO cases. And so what they were saying, if they were saying that basically they knew they couldn't stick that. See, most of these guys that are even getting caught were already on IEPs in high school. So they really can't even be locked up if there was ever a lawsuit like that because they'd be considered mentally disabled. But you add that and then you add the RICO, they don't have the power to manufacture. The RICO was only used to dangle over them like a scarecrow or to scare them into taking the charges that they take. Now, see, that's the problem with Sub-Zero and myself sitting in between there sometime. I don't want to go hard for the highs, not go hard for the lows. I don't want to get involved in gang stuff because ain't nobody protecting me per se.
Correct.
But then I also don't need to be under, if there's informants and all, there's a lot of things at play. I can come say my piece and speak, and if I get the CIA and them to say they would consider it, I need people to kick in for that piece. Otherwise, I got to step out because I'm hood, not street.
Right.
And so they got everybody to take them charges, and I want to let everybody know this. They cannot hit the average African American with a RICO charge. You are not John Gotti. You don't even know the place where the gun was made, where the dope was made. You cannot hit. They cannot do it. They can dangle it over you and make you take charges you would have plead out of before, but they cannot hit you with the RICO Act. There's not enough money coming in. And so I just want to put that on the record that we could have got a truce, but people started taking deals. I can't jump in and say something.
Right.
Whose side am I on?
And unless you get the supply, I mean, see, you didn't get the supplier, and of course the demand is always there. So it's like,
just open up space for a new person.
yeah, why did you do that? You know what I mean?
They said it was the biggest one in history.
Hey, well, let me say this here because we coming down to another final episode of Let's Talk About It, and we can kind of go on and on for about another hour if we had the time, right?
Yeah.
But I do want to number one say thank you.
Thank you.
You know, for coming back.
I appreciate it, man.
And you're more than
Anytime.
welcome.
Thank you.
To come on back anytime you get ready. But I do want to give you about 30 seconds to be able to kind of share what you think, feel, or believe, that our listening and viewing audience or just people, from the community need to know.
Thank you, first of all, about that, because what I would say in my 30 seconds is that know that there's some of us that were vigilant. There's some of us that were working on your behalf. There's some of us that don't own a PlayStation. There's some of us who worked on solutions this whole time. And so when you asked me about Sub-Zero, we got a market-driven training center model that we're doing, that we're going to be trying to do workforce housing along with building a base of market-driven training straight out of the high schools and stuff. So there's some of us working on your behalf, and you just need to be more critical of thinking. More critical thinking needs to be in place because at the end of the day, just because you marching with certain people don't mean y'all believe the same things. Pay attention to the politics of things that are going around. The whole world is watching Minnesota again. So
Absolutely. I appreciate that, Brother Joe. Another fabulous, show, spirited show. We definitely going to have this brother back on again here soon. But I want to give you, that 30 seconds to a minute, if you will, and just kind of share a little bit of why should the people vote or why should the people get involved with Banks for Sheriff?
Well, you should get involved because I'm pushing you count. You definitely count. The people need to actually have a voice. You know, we are tired of things being the same way and being lied to and smoke screened. We need an actual sheriff in there that's going to make a difference, stand up when needed to, you know, not be afraid of the politics, but actually get out there in front and protect the people and give them a voice. You know, I'm running because I'm anti-crime, and I think we all can agree that we all anti-crime.
Absolutely.
And I'm definitely pro-cop. And as you see from the last surge of ICE agents and everything else that happened behind it, we need cops. Okay, so you know, a vote for me definitely means a safe Hennepin County is safer than it was. Not just some statistical data, but real facts where you're going to be able to get up, go outside, and enjoy your life with your family. Remember, in Hennepin, we're tired of surviving. We want to live.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
like that.
Well, hey, with that being said, you know, we are down to the end of another fabulous show of Let's Talk About It, where we are here each and every Wednesday from 5 until 6, just as we always say. Again, life be life, and there's things that we still have to complete, you know, in the community, again, but we're still working for you. Right. Again, you know, you can come on down, be a part of the show. But again, CCX Create is always looking for new and innovative individuals to head their own show. So contact CCX Create and just see what you might be able to do. You know, again, we can't do this without your support, and neither can they. So if you got an extra 50 cents or $1 in that pocketbook, go on to their website, click that donation button, and I'm guaranteed they'd be very thankful. They ain't going to send it back. No.
For sure.
But Brother Joe, I'm going to go ahead and turn it on over to you, man, so we can go ahead and close it on out and get on up out of here.
All right. Thanks again to our special guests and everyone for joining us. Again, you know,
Thank you.
we're here every week from 5 to 6-ish. With that being said, we're going to wrap it up with that last backpack.
That famous backpack.
And that backpack consists of making sure you have your driver's license and insurance before you get in that vehicle. Remember to place them above the visor. That way, if stopped by law enforcement, it's easily accessible and won't be mistaken for a weapon. Remember to stay calm. Keep your hands where they can be seen. Allow the officer to go through his spiel. And as always, make it on home to your loved ones. Same thing when walking down the street. Make sure you got your driver's license or ID where it's easily accessible. Remember to stay calm. Keep your hands where they can be seen. Allow the officer to go through his spiel. And as always, make it on home to your loved ones. Another great show in the books.
Absolutely.
My name's Joe Beeks.
Mr. James Everett.
Yes, sir.
And I'm Anthijuan Beeks.
And we just talked about it.
Peace.